Now we've created our studio and animation, we need to add some realistic lighting. To start off, we're going to need to add some point lights. I'm going to zoom out of my scene, and I'm going to press Shift A, and then under Light, I'm going to choose Point. If you don't have this studio set up, you can follow along with episode 2 of this course in order to make one. For now though, I'm going to press G and X to move this point line out. Now I've got it roughly in the center, I'm going to press G and Y to move it left and right, and I'll just move it along to the left. I'll make it a good distance, that way, because of fall off, there'll be less difference in the light compared to if it was really close. This will make for a nice, flatter, consistent lighting. I'm then going to left click this green light bulb, which is the same as the green triangle for objects, and this allows us to tweak some settings for our light. In order to actually see what our lights are doing, we need to left click the camera, and I'm going to press this viewport shading mode. You can see for now, we've only got a tiny bit of light from that point light we've added, so we'll need to make it a lot brighter. I also want to come down to my world properties here, and if you have one of the default world setups, it will probably look something like this. To remove this default world setting, I'm going to left click this X here. Then I'm going to make sure I've got my point light selected here, and I'm going to come back to my green light bulb settings. I'm going to change it to a higher power, maybe to something like 4500. Now you can see our scene is much brighter, and we've already got some pretty nice lighting here. Next up, we have this parameter called radius, and this controls the actual size of the light. Right now, 0 is pretty impossible because that would be an absolutely tiny light. I'm going to want to make this quite a big light, so I'm going to change it to a value of 1.75, which is quite a big light. You can see that makes a small change to the lighting. Then I'm going to go back into the solid mode here in order to add another light a little bit quicker. This is great for people who have lower quality computers as well. But the main reason I'm doing it is, one, because my computer isn't the strongest, but also because it struggles with recording software and rendering at the same time. So I'm going to press Shift A, and I'm going to choose another point light. Then I'll press G and X to move it out, and G and Y to move it to the right. I'll maybe move it about the same distance as I've done the other one. In fact, I might even move the other one by left clicking it and pressing G and Y to grab it across the Y axis. I'll also press G and Z to pull it up. I'm then going to select my other light, and I'm maybe going to give it a power of about 200, because I just want this to be a smaller light to make the shadows a little bit more bright. I'll also give it a bigger radius, maybe something like 25 centimeters, which is just 0.25. Another thing to remember about the light source is the light will emanate from this point. So you can think if I pull it up, the light will be coming more from down here now. To preview what my lighting looks like, I'm going to left click my camera again and go into the render viewport shading. Now you can see we've got a pretty nice lighting to start with. We'll cover this again in the next lesson, but there's also an extra feature we can use to enhance our lighting without having to constantly adjust the brightness. To do this, I'll go to my render settings here. The symbol for this looks like the back of a camera. I'm in cycles because that is my preferred render engine, but if you want quicker renders, you can go with Eevee. Just keep in mind Eevee is a much lower quality, but it is faster than cycles. Then under color management, you can see we have some extra settings, and I can just change this look to maybe something like high contrast. Now you can see our image has a much higher contrast, so I might keep this at just medium high contrast. I found through experimentation that medium contrast is pretty much the same as keeping it at none. You can also decrease the contrast if you like, but this might make the image look flatter. In composition, typically contrast is a good way to bring your eyes to the subject of the image. Notice how it looks a lot flatter when I set this to very low contrast. I'll set it back to medium contrast. There's also an exposure slider, which will allow you to increase the brightness. This looks horrible though, so I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo this. Great, now we've finished our lighting, let's have a quick quiz. Number 1. Where can we edit our lights, brightness and size? To do this, we can left click our point light, and then we can come to this green light bulb setting. Here we can change the power, which will increase the brightness, and the radius will increase the size. This won't affect the brightness at all, but rather it will affect other physics of lights affected by the size of the light itself, such as the shadows and things like that. Number 2. What did we turn off which is on by default? This was the world lighting. I went to the world properties setting and made sure to remove any lighting that was here. It should have this plus new symbol if you've removed it correctly. Another alternative way to do this, which I didn't cover, is you could keep the world lighting on and just turn the strength to 0 to temporarily turn it off if you wanted to turn it on later. I'll press X to remove this again. Number 3. Why did I move my light a fair distance from the object? Because of light physics, when the light is closer to the object, it'll make it so there's a lot of light in this area, and then also a lot darker light in this area. This is to do with lighting fall off. However, if I keep my light further away, because the light will be brightest here and darkest here, it'll also get progressively darker, but it'll be much less noticeable than in the beginning, making it a fairly level lighting. Great job on completing the quiz. If you're unsure if you got any of the questions correct, feel free to comment your answers in the comment section below, and I'd be more than happy to answer them for you. Also, if you have any questions about this lesson in general, feel free to type your questions in the comment section below, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Also, don't forget that this lesson, along with all the other tutorials in this course, is completed with a free PDF guide, which you can use to revise or to check any details from this lesson. Feel free to check that out in the description below. Also, if you enjoy my teaching style, I also provide provide one-on-one coaching, complete with personalized lessons and post-lesson quiz questions and support. Link in the description if you're interested. Thank you for making it to the end of the video. You can also support the channel by making a one-time donation through Super, but even just liking, subscribing and sharing if you enjoyed is more than enough to support the channel. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.